Okay, so the recording has started. Welcome everyone, and also on behalf of Christian, thanks a lot for spending 1 hour with us on this Friday afternoon or early Friday morning, 8 o'clock. Juan, so thanks a lot. It's highly appreciated. It's a sprint review and it's connected to the Scrum team survey. We already gave you a short exercise, and let's just take a couple of minutes to see what appeared. And I'm sharing my screen right now. So the question was, what is a powerful conversation or improvement you've made based on the feedback from the Scrum team survey? Or if you haven't used the survey yet, what is something that you hope or expect to see happen? Chris, I haven't got time to check it out yet. Did you? Or is there something that draws your attention?
I was curious in the one that Juan mentioned. What you wrote your name in front of it, so that was an easy one. I know who to ask. But Juan, can you elaborate a little bit on the one that you wrote down?
Of course. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, and as a reference for everyone else, I'm working for Aplaudo Studios in Central America. We have 15 teams working using the Scrum team survey. So to give you an idea of the level of the challenge that we are dealing with, but definitely one of the patterns that I've identified on the other different improvements that we have had in those teams, it's a tendency to improve on refinements, and therefore the DOD, the definition of done, criteria, and the practices itself. So the feedback that we have captured through the tool led us to identify that responsiveness is one of those elements or areas that developers highlight that they would like to improve. Of course, it has led us to review another aspects as the sprint reviews. For example, one of the teams, and this is one of the biggest companies in the US for selling properties and stuff like that. They never wanted to implement the sprint reviews, but as a consequence of the discussions that we have, we finally got them to understand and see the value of improving the refinement of the product backlog since the sprint review up until the refinement session. So those two practices didn't exist. I mean, the client was not so interested in them. They wanted just to give us the list of tickets or user stories. But now we have been able to let them know and start implementing the practices. The team even took or went into another teams and they did shadowing to identify how it was being helpful for others. And yeah, it's, I mean, we're seeing a lot of improvement on that.
Well, that's a great example, Juan. I love that a lot. We did not prepare this before the sprint review, right? You and I, but this is a perfect example, I think, of the kind of conversations that we hope teams will have, right, through the Scrum team survey. Now, before we move on, Barry, I would like to check if that's okay with Valentine, because Valentine, you mentioned that you'd never used it before, but what is a conversation that you'd like to have?
Yeah, well, that's a very simple one, because actually I just started with as a Scrum Master with 2 teams, actually exactly 1 week ago. So I'm still in the phase of gathering data on the team, how they're performing, what they're, in terms of how their flow is, the flow of their value, the flow of the team itself, the flow of the individuals. And I'm trying to get that picture. So that was also why I came across the survey itself, but I didn't use it yet. So, but it might help me in the near future to gather some data on the team and their environment.
Well, I think your feedback and the feedback from anyone in the sprint review is super useful, but yours also because you're looking at it fresh with a fresh eye. And that's always very nice to get your sense of what you're seeing in this sprint review. So we're happy to hear your feedback as we proceed.
Yeah, sure.
So Barry, shall we move on to the first slide, which is a whole list of sprint goals that we've worked on. I'm not going to cover all of them. We're just showing them to show you that we've worked very hard for the past couple of months on.
You generated lots of output.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of lines of code. No, but we've been working on a single product goal, which is to support organizational level insights with the Scrum Team survey. So I'll give you all a quick tour of the Scrum Team survey in a moment. But just so you know, the Scrum Team survey is something that Barry and I created because we want to help Scrum teams improve. And Scrum teams are never on their own in organizations. They always have managers, other teams, and so on. So what we've been doing the last couple of months is to also make it easier to work with many Scrum teams and to see the results from many Scrum teams together. And this is something that Juan also referred to in Applaudo, which with 15 teams. So a lot of the features we've been implementing have to do with those organizational level insights. And I'm going to show you some of them in the quick recap that's coming up next. I think we're going to move on actually to another product goal after this sprint review. We haven't decided which one yet, but that depends on the feedback that we're going to get from you all. So let's move on, Barry, to the next slide.
One moment, Chris, and you're sending a message to Roman. Here's the link to the goal. Yep, done.
Great. In that case, I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Because
shall I stop sharing, Chris?
Yeah.
So that you can share your screen.
Sure, let's do that. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment and give you a quick recap of the Scrum Team survey. It's a free tool, so you can use it for free with your team. It's free for up to one team. If you want to use it with more teams, you need to pay a little bit because otherwise it's hard for us to sustain all that. But I'll show you both the free version and the team dashboard. And I think, Barry, I'll take about 15 minutes max for this. And then we'll move into interactive parts where you can give your feedback and ideas. Cool. So let me first share my screen. And for some reason, Zoom disappeared on me. Where's my Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Too many screens.
Very confusing sometimes. So let's start with the homepage of the Scrum Team survey, which is at scrumteamsurvey.org. And like I just said, Barry and I created the Scrum Team survey to help teams improve. There is a scientific model behind the Scrum Team survey, and that model basically identifies a number of core factors that we know from data are important to help teams become more effective. What you can do, if you go to scrumteamsurvey.org, you can diagnose your team for free. Which basically brings you to a questionnaire. And I'll start over. I was already doing one here. And then you can diagnose your team. I'll just enter a name. I'm not going to do the whole survey, I'm just showing it for completeness. And something that is new and that we added this sprint is that it's also possible now to select the type of team that you have. So initially, up to this sprint, the team, we only supported technical Scrum teams, so teams that develop software, which means that the questionnaire included questions about release automation and technical questions about refinement, for example. But feedback that we got was that a lot of teams do not use Scrum anymore to develop software. We've really bridged the gap from software development to many other fields. So we actually now have a separate version of the questionnaire that is suited for teams that do not develop software. The survey is mostly the same, but we've removed questions that are very specific to software development and replaced them with language that is more easy to understand for non-technical Scrum teams. But as you can see, the questionnaire is still, in terms of the structure and the questions that we ask, mostly the same. Now, if you go through the whole questionnaire, and I'm not going to do that right now because that takes about 8 minutes, you get a report from us in the email, in your mailbox. And this report shows you the results for your team based on the answers that you gave. And the example that I'm showing you right now is one for a whole team. So this is a demo team, it's not a real team. I'm not showing you real data. But this is a team where other people of the team have already participated, because what's really important for us is that it's not just your perspective on the team, for example, as their Scrum Master or a team member, but that you also invite your team members to give their perspective on how things are going. Even more important for us, invite your stakeholders to see how they think things are going, because ultimately your stakeholders are the most important party to determine how useful your outcomes really are, right? How valuable your work really is.
Yeah.
And we've also added supporters as an option, which are the managers, the leaders, the coaches that are around your team that are there to support you. You can invite them all with separate invitation links, and each survey is customized. So for example, supporters, they get a very short survey. Stakeholders get a bit longer one, and the team members get the full-length version that I just showed you. And in the team report, you can actually see how your team is doing on all the areas that are important in our model. And you can actually drill down if you like and look at the different results. What's really important, again, is that the model is based on a scientific model, or the results are based on a scientific model, which means that we basically plot your results on this model, and you can see how the various underlying factors work together to create that score. So for example, team autonomy in this team is a score of 60, which is influenced by the level of self-management that a team has and the cross-functionality that exists within a team. So this is something that we present to you in the team report, and this is something that's available for free. Now, based on these data, we hope that you can have conversations in your team about what's happening, the patterns that you're seeing, maybe the things that are going well and the things that are not going so well. That's why we present a lot of useful tips for your team to use to improve. So what you see here is 3 focus areas that are basically the algorithm behind our platform, identified as most important for your team to improve in. So for example, management support was an issue with this team. So what we suggest here is, okay, we see that the benefits of Agile are not super clear for the people around your team, the supporters of your team. So maybe try these tips to make it easier for them to see the point and maybe help you in areas where it matters. So you can download a bunch of do-it-yourself workshops and experiments to actually do that with your team. And in the free version, you get up to 3 tips. And if you would like to get more, you need a subscription. And then you can see all, I think, 20 that we give. Now, a lot of teams, once they've had the conversation about the results and the tips that might be useful for them to improve and the improvements that they identify, they can actually track those under actions in the team report. And teams can just enter as many as they want. And they can also mark actions as impeded, which means that for whatever reason, the team is unable to solve this one on their own and they need help from other people in the organization to make it work. And that's particularly important for the team dashboard, which I will show in a moment. Now, what's important, maybe specifically for this sprint review, is that we are thinking about improving the feedback. Right now, you're getting a lot of feedback. There's a lot of do-it-yourself workshops. If you have the paid version, you get more feedback even. We also give you badges that your team scores based on the results. But we want to improve in coming sprints how we actually present this feedback. Because one thing that a lot of teams have told us is that there is sometimes so much feedback, so much areas where improvement is necessary, that it's difficult for teams to know where to start. Even though we make it super simple with quick start workshops and very simple quick tips to get started, it's still sometimes hard for teams to start improving. What we've also noticed, and we'd like to get your thoughts on this as well in a few minutes, is we see a lot of teams do this once, and then they never do it again. And when I ask them, why did you do it once? Their idea is, well, we've done it, we've made improvements, and that's okay. They see the value of the Scrum Team survey, they see the value of the questionnaire and creating transparency, but for whatever reason, they only do it once. And what we want to do is encourage teams to do it more often. So we are looking for ways to make it more interesting for teams to do this more often, to make this part of their continuous improvement flow. And we're super curious about the ideas that you're going to share with us in a few minutes. Barry, before I move on to the team dashboard, is there something you would like to emphasize about this part of the quick recap?
Not really. And I was also in the meantime replacing my Wi-Fi connection with an Ethernet cable, etc., so that I have better connection. So,
oh, you were doing something else.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. We're a team, so we can do it both. I'll take a few more minutes to show you the team dashboard, which basically has been the focus for the past 3 months. The team dashboard is a very natural evolution of the team report that you just saw. The team report is for single teams. But in many organizations, you work with many other teams. And a request that we got from very early on even is, how are all my teams doing in our organization? Or how are all the teams in this value stream doing? Or how are all the teams in this department doing? As basically the patterns that you see across all those teams. The team dashboard is our way to help organizations there. And in this case, I'm again showing you a demo dashboard, which is also available from our website. There's a login that you can use to view this read-only version. But I'm not showing you any real data. That's what I'm trying to say, not from real teams, because that would not be very polite. But basically in the team dashboard, you can see the results from multiple teams. In this case, you can also see on the core factors of the model that we identified, how your teams are broadly doing, the green bar, and also what the spread of the scores is. Because sometimes you may be doing quite well, but maybe there's one team like this one that is struggling a lot with management support. So the team dashboard actually makes it easier to see those kinds of patterns. Here too, the model
Christian,
is
because
yeah, sure.
that is in fact the area I would like to focus on. I'm Scrum Master of a team which is part of how shall I say, a tribe of 15 teams, and we have so many different rituals, in fact, per team. Mm-hmm. We don't have one particular cadence. So I'm just interested in to see how can we have the 15 teams actually do the survey, and you're now displaying multiple teams and their results. Mm-hmm. So what would we get out of that?
Have you already tried it with multiple teams?
Well, no, not yet. That is still part of my awareness. My awareness campaign within the group.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can try to answer that question and make it part of the quick tour as well. Because what's really important about the model that we created is that it's a process model. So we're not asking teams to check, for example, if they're doing a sprint retrospective or if they're doing a sprint review. What we do instead is we ask them, how often do you collaborate with your stakeholders? Do you have a good understanding of what's important to your stakeholders? Do you feel that it's safe to learn in this organization and in this team in particular? Is there a lot of conflict in your team? These are all factors that we know from our own research, but also from other scientific studies into teamwork that are important to their effectiveness. So I think like 95% of the questions we ask of teams in the questionnaires are not even about Scrum. They're not even about Agile. Okay. They're just about teamwork. So I think you can use this really easily, even if teams have different cadences. Right now, the focus is still on Scrum teams, so the feedback still uses Scrum terminology, but we're going to actually make a version of this that is more generic in the near future. That's just about Agile teams, or maybe even about teams. I don't know yet, but that's definitely something that's coming up. But what we're showing always in the team dashboard is the results for many teams together, which allows you to see patterns. So for example, management support is clearly an issue. It's quite low and it hasn't improved since recent measurements. Yeah. And you can also see how the different teams score on management support. There's clearly one that is struggling. You can also see that the supporters themselves rate it quite high. They think they're doing a great job in supporting the teams, but apparently that experience is different for the teams themselves. So this dashboard, if you analyze the results, gives you insights as a Scrum Master on what to focus your conversations on. Are we getting enough support? How can we be more clear in what kind of support we need? Are we actually asking the right people to help us? right? That's what we're trying to do here. And you can filter the dashboard however you like. You can filter it by a tag, by the type of team, by whatever makes sense to you. And I know Juan has already created a very cool structure of tags, so it's very flexible. You can basically organize it however you want. And here too, you get tips, very actionable tips from us on what you can do to improve across different teams. And you can also keep track of all the improvement actions that teams are creating. And in this case, you can also see which teams are creating those actions. And if they mark them as impeded, as is the case here, we have 5 impeded actions, it also shows up in the dashboard. And I know that our customers that are using the team dashboards are really looking for this every time. Like, are there impeded actions that we need to help the teams with? Because ultimately, that's what we want, right? With the Scrum Team Survey, we want to make sure that teams get the help they need. I think that for the team dashboard, that's the most important thing I wanted to show for now. Is there something else that I missed? I don't think so. There's a lot more that I could show you, but I'm just trying to give you a general sense of what we have right now. Are there any big questions before we move on to the next step? I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. And if there are no questions, it's fine too, because then we'll hop into the interactive round. Okay, Barry, are you ready to set up a few breakouts while I...
Yeah, I can. I just muted myself because my wife started vacuum in the next room. So the church can.
Oh, I'm seeing it now.
I've got a couple of impediments at home as well. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to create some breakout rooms, probably groups of 3 small groups. And you've got a question to discuss in your breakout room, and that's this one. What is a big thought or bold idea you have for the Scrum Team Survey that would make it more inviting and encouraging for teams to improve continuously? So not to use the Scrum Team Survey only once. So while I'm setting up the breakout rooms, take about 30 seconds to get your own thinking started about this question. Maybe make some notes in your notebook.
Yeah. And you can put me in a room as well, Barry.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'm going to actually do pairs. Yeah, Chris, you're in a room as well. What time box shall we use, Chris? 7 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So that people have roughly 2 minutes to get to know each other, and then 5 minutes to discuss the question. That's a good question. In slides, oh, I need to copy some slides. 4 rooms. Thanks for the question. Gavan, you can just pick slide 7, 8, 9, or 10, and then include your answers in one of those slides. And I'm going to open the breakout rooms right now. Enjoy the conversation and see you back in 7 minutes.
Oh, Barry, I'm back.
Hey, you're back.
Yeah, Juan was just explaining a lot of things to me. I hope he's coming in as well. Yeah. Hey, Juan, we just got this connected.
Yeah,
It was too short.
I think the Zoom time box just expired, and then you
Yeah.
brutally
Yeah,
get
but
back to the main channel.
all of a sudden we had the message, you have 30 seconds to go.
Yeah. Zoom is the Chuck Norris of time boxing. We know.
And somehow online time goes faster. It's I'm not sure what it is, but let's just continue the conversation over here in the main channel. So the question that you discussed is, what is a big thought or a bold idea you have for the Scrum Team survey that would make it more inviting and encouraging for teams to improve continuously, so that they not use the Scrum Team survey only once? And I needed to reshuffle a room because someone dropped out. So I think I moved one to another room, but let's see if that worked out. So we had 3 rooms. Let's just take a couple of minutes per room to see what the key things is that you've discussed. You don't have to mention each thing that you wrote down. Maybe just pick some of the discussion points that really stood out for you. Is there someone from a room that would like to get started?
If you want, I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Juan.
Okay, thank you. We didn't have like, well, I think I felt that we just started the discussion.
Yes.
We didn't finish per se on many ideas, but one of the ideas that we were discussing, and I was sharing with Getjam, is that what we tried at the beginning, Q1 this year, is to encourage a lean mindset on the Scrum Masters that were going to participate in this, so they have the opportunity to explain and sell the idea, and sell the idea without pushing it, right, to their teams. So they had to explain the benefits of running the experiment using the tool to capture feedback, to have the ability to measure, to create the evidence, so that they could later on go and revisit and work on it. But they would have it consistently somewhere and aligned to this practice. Somehow the model, I think one of the benefits is that helps you to organize all this information, right? And so you have a way to measure it, but also to see it graphically, what are the top trends or bottom trends according to all the answers. So it helped a lot, because by the time, and this is feedback that I've got from the Scrum Masters, because we run monthly retrospectives with them, besides the retrospectives that they are running within their teams for the exercise of the Scrum survey. So teams like a lot to see it graphically and to discuss it, to identify which are those bottom trends according to all their feedback. And the teams are the ones highlighting which of those they would like to focus on. So to sell it, I think we are humans, and especially maybe in the software industry, we like to measure stuff, and the tool helps to make it easier, right? In an organized way. So I think that that has been, and continues to be for me, like the best selling point, having the ability to make it, to facilitate that opportunity to measure.
But is there something that we can change or improve that would make it even more appealing for teams to use it, or even more easy for you to sell it for teams to start using it? And that's more like a question for you, Juan, or Gert-Jan, or someone, maybe also just anyone.
One of the most appealing things is that team members are not confronted with how shall I say, we have to do a survey and it takes again a long time, and what is the use of it? I think it's about, and that's why I was focusing on the team's dashboard, that you can actually see the feedback, and that is very important.
That it's not just numbers.
I think I agree with Getam. One of the words that one of the words that we have used a lot to sell it is that it's based on a scientific model. And attending to your sessions, I've noticed that some other people use it as well. I mean, that's a good word because it's scientific. I mean, it's not just based on someone's thought or opinion. It's based on a research. So what I would like to highlight is it would be nice to make it easier to explain how you got to the scientific model, because people usually ask me, how is that model? I mean, how did they came to the model?
Yeah, and let's be honest, a lot of developers have a very well-developed bullshit detector, right? So they're very good at identifying management bullshit, and I think that we can help explain that the model is not just our opinion, or that it's actually based in facts, right, or evidence. Yeah, that's great. Awesome.
I'm also curious to hear someone from the other breakout room. I'm not sure who was in that breakout room, but
yeah, me.
Yeah, Valentin, go ahead.
Yeah, so we also shared ideas, didn't have a lot of discussion, but one thing, and I cannot see the name now, but one thing that was shared was around maybe adding something around habits. And one idea that I had myself is that the model that you showed that remind me of the model of Jeff van den Hout, which is a Dutch scientist, and he does a lot of research.
We know him well, yeah.
Oh, great. So he does a lot of research about team flow, and it's quite related to your model as well. So it might be funny to actually incorporate some of his stuff in there as well.
Yeah, we've been talking with Jeff, has also been in one of our meetups to talk about his model, and we're actually talking with him if there are ways to connect the models. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Wow, nice.
Might take some time, but that's definitely something that's interesting, because team flow is something that I really think is important for teams to have. So
yeah, because I've been using he also has a survey. I've been using that in the past also with teams I've been working with, and it works quite well. But I think your tool is more a little bit more further advanced and maybe more user friendly. So it might be interesting to incorporate some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're talking with him, so who knows, right? That would be cool. Absolutely, yeah.
So maybe Roman, Olga, or Govan, if you would like to share something, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, so maybe first thing, hello. It's like I'm joined the community a few days ago, so in fact, I'm not really aware what you are doing here. So maybe this idea is completely absurd, but it's recently I was interested in this nudges economy and behavioral economy, and it just collided in my head because I saw this service like Humu or something.com, and in general it's using AI to generate the flow of these nudges messages to like an entire organization to drive people on behavioral level. Okay, so it just collided with you want the team to have some kind of behavior. You want to put it in motion. So that's maybe it's not an idea. It's an area when you can find ideas. And just out of my head was if you integrate somehow with Jira, for example, or things like that. It's probably not the best idea right now, but this idea that
any idea is good, Roman.
I know, but it's not very practical, but the direction. Okay, so if the team feels that they can do it in flow, maybe in small pieces, like every phrase every morning.
Right. So not all the questions at once, but maybe 3 every morning or during lunch break or something.
Yeah,
Cool.
you can accumulate information, because this is about feeding data to your system and about driving team with this data, yeah, and about continuous improvement. So, for example, it's synchronized with retros, with retrospectives. Okay, if every 3 retrospectives they do like a 5 minutes just, or 3 minutes even, and they can sum it up and take this one important critical improvement story to their sprint. Okay, if you go with this flow and it's blended, there's no barriers, there's no blockers, and you get a lot of data, and they get a lot of data. Okay, so this is the logic behind it.
That's a really good idea. We've already been thinking about doing something like this, but the technology should support it actually. But I haven't gotten around to figuring out how to actually do it. But this is definitely something that I would like to implement. Maybe we could also post questions to Slack, for example, or other platforms. Not that you have to go to our questionnaire, but that we can somehow share it. Although there are some real big technical difficulties there, but maybe those are things that might be possible too. Yeah, it's a great idea.
And the last thing is that, I tested on myself last year. I lost weight, like 15 kilos, okay, and it was due to some Korean or Chinese mobile software, and it just sent me a message about healthy living every day and a lot of psychology background. So I tested, and that works.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So if you review like several of them, like this healthy living applications, fitness applications, and lose weight applications, probably the science is there.
Yeah. Someone also mentioned Duolingo as an example, like where you can learn new languages and you get badges, and it's very interesting. They're very good at making it fun for people to learn something new. So we could use similar strategies here as well. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Roman. That's great. And Gert-Jan, you have raised your hand.
Well, I raise my hand because I think it's good to keep it a separate connection. If you're going to integrate it with Slack or with any other tool that they use within a company, you're taking away the special feedback that you're going to receive from this survey.
Yeah, maybe also the privacy could be an issue, right? That people feel like it's not anonymous because they're entering their answers into Slack or something.
Right.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that. I agree, Gert-Jan. That's actually true.
Yeah, I agree. But there's also some potential. Some teams are a bit hesitant in not yet another tool. So maybe if we can somehow lower the barrier to make it easier, then that could work out in a beneficial way. But it's something to explore.
I think it also ties really well to what Olga and I were talking about in our breakout room as the final group, I think. Olga said that we should make it more fun and more playful, the process of actually going through the questionnaire, I think that's a really good example. A lot of developers are stressed, they have a lot of work to do, and if it feels too professional, the questionnaire, it feels like work. So we could make it look more fun with playful images or something else that makes it more lighthearted. But she also warned against, and I'm telling this for Olga because her audio was a bit tricky, so that's why I'm giving her her ideas. But she also said it's important to keep a balance. It should still be professional, but maybe right now it's a bit too professional, right? I thought that was a really good point. And one idea that we already want to explore in more details to make the badges more interesting. You get badges when you participate with your team, but right now the way they work is not very appealing. We do know that a lot of teams like them, but we want to reinvent how we give badges to teams based on their improvements that they're making, so that we're actually rewarding improvement over time. And that may also tie into what Roman said about a weight loss app, where you get like a compliment when you're on track, when things are going better. I think we can do more with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So time-wise, we've got 9 minutes left. I would say we need 5 minutes to wrap up. So I think we've got time for maybe Jan, one more question or comment.
Yeah, one more comment or idea.
Govan, I'm entirely not sure if I pronounced your name correctly, but probably can recognize some of it.
No worries, my man. No worries. It's gonna be okay. So just to top up the last comment, so you know the app Grammarly, right?
Yeah.
That asks you, okay, how do you want your tone to be? How do you want to sound? So you can make a custom solution, like do you want to be, I don't know, like wacky or strictly professional? You can find the balance there. You know, just use that. It's already there, because in development world, you've got folks who are age 15 to 55 or even above. It's different language, guys, you know? So if somebody wants to watch Bugs Bunny versus SpongeBob or whatever, just give them what they can understand and what they feel comfortable with. That's the trick, and there you go. I'm just gonna end here because we're short on time.
Yeah, but that's a great idea. Thank you so much, Johan, for sharing it. And I like setting a tone. Like, what is the audience that?
Yeah, customize it. Listen to the audience. That works for them. That's their language.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks so much. I've added it to my list as well. Now I've added, and you've written down a lot of your thoughts in the slides as well. Barry and I will process that in more detail after the sprint review. I've also written down a lot of other ideas. They will end up, or at least most of them usually end up in the product backlog. And the people that have been following the Scrum Team survey for a while know that most of those issues eventually end up in the Scrum Team survey. So your ideas are definitely used, unless we feel that they don't really fit the vision or that the business case is not strong enough. So we sometimes say no to certain ideas, but I've heard a lot of good ones. So I think much of this will be included at some point, especially the choice between SpongeBob and Bugs Bunny, right?
I want my name for that, man. Like,
yeah, idea by Jovan, right? Cool. So thank you so much for sharing your feedback and your ideas with us in the sprint review. This is what makes sprint review fun, right? To get your thoughts on this.
Do you want to wrap it up, Chris, for the road ahead and maybe some metrics?
Yeah, sure. You already moved to that slide. Can you maximize it, Barry? So that...
Slideshow. There you go.
Perfect. So there is a roadmap that we have online. It's on Mural. You can go take a look with the link that's on this slide if you like. But the short story is that we've completed the team dashboard. Well, it's never fully completed, but we've completed most of the work we wanted to do for the team dashboard. So we're going to move on to another product goal. And the product goal is probably going to be about improving how we share feedback and how to make it more appealing for teams to do it more often. I don't think we'll spend a dozen sprints on that. That will be more a matter of 2 or 3 sprints, and then we'll move on to something else. But that will be the focus then. After that, the goal is to add more version, basically to add support for agile teams in general. So not specifically Scrum, but maybe a Kanban team or an extreme programming team. We know that the questionnaire behind the Scrum Team survey is already quite generic. You could use it for any kind of team, but the language, particularly in the feedback, is something we have to adapt. And that's actually quite a lot of work, as Barry and I have discovered this week. So that's something that we're going to do after we've completed and improved the feedback and how we present it. And after that, we're a few months down the road and the future is uncertain. So we have no idea what we'll be working on then.
It's time for a summer break probably at that moment, and then we'll see what happens after the summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Often during the summer, very interesting ideas emerge. So
yeah, absolutely. We always like to end with a few business metrics just to get a sense of how things are going. And this is also an important part of any sprint review, we think. We've noticed that the churn rate for subscribers has gone up a little bit since the previous period. Kind of makes sense. I'm noticing a pattern in that at the end of the year, people cancel their subscription when the budget cycle is at its end. And I think during and approaching the summer vacation, the same thing tends to happen. We do know that a lot of new customers have signed up in the past week, but their numbers are not yet in these graphs. So I know that the results are more positive than they seem in this particular example. The revenue has gone down a little bit. It was 830 euros a month last time we checked. It's gone down because a couple of customers canceled. I know that one of those customers is a big one, and they're signing up again with many more teams. So we're fully confident that will go up next time we check. In general, we're seeing a lot of patrons coming in as free subscribers, because if you're a patron, you either get one free team license to the team dashboard or for 3. And a lot of new users are actually patrons, but their numbers are not in these charts because effectively they get a free license from us. Finally, the one thing we're noticing is that like the balance between the people that use the free version and the paid version is way off balance. Like 95% of the teams are using the free version, even for large corporate companies that use it every month or every quarter. We hope we can find ways to make it appealing for them to get a subscription as well, because ultimately we need to make a sustaining platform. So we need more subscribers for sure. But right now the focus for Barry and me is to make sure that the core features are in there, and then we're going to focus more on getting more subscribers in. That's the strategy.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Barry?
No, not really. More like maybe you can connect it to this one. Like if you're curious, like, so what's the difference between the free version? That's something that we call the essential version, and the liberator version. That's the subscription version. Then you can find an overview over here on this page. So afterwards, just take your time to find out the differences and determine if it's worth a subscription for your team or your organization.
For your company, yeah, because a lot of our customers are now using it with many teams, and we also spend a lot of time with them to get the process started, to help where we can. So it's not just a subscription to the Scrum Team server, but in a way also to Barry and Christian, as Juan knows already from the experience at Uploado.
Yeah,
cool.
So we've got a couple of hands up. Shall we? Govan.
Thanks, guys. I'm really short on time. I gotta go to pick up my kid from school, but I would like to connect with you guys. I want to test this out as a pilot with my company. We got a lot of Scrum teams, so I'll be reaching out by email if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for the session. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Jovan. Have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, I had this question. What's the relation between the Discord channel, Slack channel, Patreon group, Liberators meetup, and local Liberators meetup?
It's a mess, right? Yeah. Well, Barry, you explain.
Should I subscribe to everything, or does
No, that's not necessary. So Chris and I started a patron community about roughly 2 years ago. Patrons are people that appreciate our work and are willing to do a small monthly, well, it's not small, to do a monthly donation to keep us going. Therefore, because of that financial space that it creates, we can develop products, run meetups, create new free content, stuff like that. To give something in return for those patrons, we also give them some benefits. One of the benefits is that you get access to Discord. So Discord is a completely separate platform, but patrons started a collaboration with Discord. And one of the benefits that you get if you are a contributor or liberator is that you also get access to our Discord server. And on our Discord server, you find many other patrons with whom you can share ideas and challenges. Now, another benefit that we also included for contributor and liberator level is that you get free access to the Scrum Team survey. So if you are a contributor, you get 1 team for free. And if you are a liberator, you get up to 3 teams for free. And the Liberators Network or the local Liberators user groups, that's more like our platform that we use to show our meetups.
Okay, so that goes my sentiment or confusion. Being a platform gives me a problem. I have now 2 communities or even 4 communities to manage: 2 meetups, Slack, and Discord. And maybe you should.
In a way, there's only I would say the Discord community is the one that you can focus on best.
Yeah.
That's the shortest answer that I can give you. And via Discord, you'll see connections to all the other platforms. But my recommendation would be to use Discord as your central point of focus.
Okay, because I like invited a couple of my friends or fellow Scrum Masters, just recommended you that this is a great channel and there's a lot of stuff and content and very, very friendly people. And I love this live Scrum Master support, like finding out, oh, my team is something like this or this function or another pathology, what I do, okay? And there's a couple of Scrum Masters online to help you. It's great. It's a really great thing, okay?
Oh, nice.
For youngsters, it's really great.
Absolutely.
I really saw a lot of Scrum Masters like 25, 26, 27 years old people, which are not like adults or even adults than us. They don't have this like a psychological resistance, and it's really helpful. Okay, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's good to
Yeah,
hear.
but it's a good question. And yeah, we are working on simplifying stuff. It's somehow all the tools and things we use in a way also became a bit of a spaghetti. So we need to figure out how to simplify things as well. But that's yeah, good one.
Thanks.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Juan already had to leave. He said hi on the chat. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully we'll see you again for the next sprint review.
Yes, have a great weekend. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Shall we stick around for a few minutes?